Before we start the story that will touch your heart, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And if you have any meaningful stories, whether sad or happy, share them with me. Who knows, your story might become the next video on the channel. Now, get your tissues ready, because today I'm going to tell you Marina's story, a story that will move you from the first to the last minute. Marina had always been a dreamy girl. At 23, she worked as a teacher in a small school in the town where she was born. She had brown hair that shone in the sun and a smile that lit up any room. But behind that smile, Marina carried a weight that few knew about, the pressure from a traditional family who believed that a woman was only complete when married. "Marina, you're already 23. All your cousins are already married," her mother, Dona Rosa, would say every week after Sunday lunch. "That young man, Fernando, Dona Conceição's son, always asks about you. He's a good catch, has a good job at the bank." Fernando was everything a conservative family in the 90s could want: stable, well-dressed, educated, and from a good family. But there was a problem. Marina felt absolutely nothing for him. When they were together, she felt like she was playing a role in a theater play she hadn't chosen to participate in. On a rainy March night, Fernando took her to dinner at the most expensive restaurant in town. Marina knew what was coming. There had been obvious signs for weeks. He was more nervous than usual, constantly checking his watch, and his hands were trembling slightly. "Marina," he said, kneeling in the middle of the crowded restaurant, "will you marry me?" The silence seemed to last an eternity. Marina looked around and saw all eyes fixed on her, waiting for an answer. She felt the weight of expectations, her family's voices echoing in her mind, the social pressure that had been suffocating her for years. "Yes," she whispered, knowing she was sealing a fate she hadn't chosen. The 6 months of wedding preparations were an emotional roller coaster for Marina. During the day, she smiled at congratulations and organized party details. At night, alone in her room, she cried silently into her pillow. She tried to talk to her best friend, Julia, about her feelings. "Julia, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing," she confessed one afternoon while they were trying on bridesmaid dresses. "Marina, everyone gets nervous before their wedding. It's normal. Fernando is a good man, you'll be happy," Julia replied, not really hearing the desperation in her friend's voice. Marina also tried to talk to her mother, but Dona Rosa was categorical. "Marina, there's no such thing as movie love. True love is built over time, with respect and companionship. You're being dramatic." 3 months before the wedding, Marina's life changed completely when she met Gabriel, a photographer who had been hired to take graduation photos for her class at school. Gabriel was different from everything Marina knew. He had messy hair, eyes that sparkled when he talked about his passion for photography, and a way of seeing the world that awakened something dormant in her heart. "You know you have a different smile when you're not posing," he told her during one of the photo sessions. "It's much more beautiful when it's genuine." They began meeting by chance. Gabriel always showed up at school during recess. Marina always passed by the square where he used to photograph the sunset. They talked for hours about dreams, fears, literature, music. Marina discovered parts of herself she didn't even know existed. "Marina, I know you're going to get married," Gabriel said one afternoon, holding her hands as they walked through the square. "But I need you to know that I love you. Really. And I know you love me too." Marina cried at that moment because she knew he was right. For the first time in her life, she understood what it meant to love someone with all her soul. The night before the wedding, Marina was in the room she had shared with her younger sister all her life, surrounded by gifts and dresses, but feeling completely empty. Her sister, Carla, only 16 years old, was the only one who seemed to see the truth. "Sister, you don't have to do this," she said quietly, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I see how you're suffering. Carla, everything is already ready. People came from far away, invitations were sent, the church is booked. So what? Are you going to spend the rest of your life unhappy because of a party?" Marina hugged her sister and cried like she hadn't cried in months. That night, Gabriel appeared under her window, like in a romantic movie. "Run away with me," he said simply. "Now. Let's leave here. Let's build a life together." Marina looked at him, then at the house where she grew up, at the wedding dress hanging in the closet, and felt her heart break in half. "I can't, Gabriel. I just can't." September 15th dawned sunny, one of those perfect days that seem like destiny's irony. Marina woke up with swollen eyes from crying so much and had to use extra makeup to disguise it. While the bridesmaids helped her get dressed, she looked at herself in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman in front of her. The dress was beautiful, she was objectively pretty, but her eyes seemed empty. "Wow, Marina, you look radiant," the friends exclaimed. But inside, she felt like she was slowly dying. At the church, she walked down the aisle holding her father's arm, hearing the wedding march, seeing the guests' smiles. Each step seemed to weigh tons. When she reached the altar and looked at Fernando, she tried to find some feeling, any spark of love or at least genuine affection. But all she saw was a good man who deserved someone who truly loved him, and that someone wasn't her. During the ceremony, when the priest asked if she accepted Fernando as her husband, Marina felt the world stop. Her hands were shaking. Her voice came out in a whisper. "I do." But as she spoke those words, she saw Gabriel in the back of the church. He had come, even knowing it would be painful. Their eyes met for an instant, and Marina saw tears running down his face. At that moment, she knew she was making the biggest mistake of her life. The first years of marriage were a succession of gray days. Marina and Fernando moved to a beautiful house. She continued teaching. He got promoted at the bank. To others, they were the perfect couple. But Marina lived like a ghost of herself. She smiled when necessary, fulfilled her duties as a wife, participated in family lunches. Inside, a part of her died a little each day. Fernando, in turn, began to notice that something was wrong. He tried to be affectionate, planned surprises, brought flowers. But Marina couldn't genuinely reciprocate his gestures. "Marina, what's happening to us?" he asked one night, after 2 years of marriage. "I feel like you're here, but you're not really here." 5 years after the wedding, Marina was in the town square when she saw Gabriel again. He had returned to visit family and looked more mature, but his eyes still had the same sparkle as always. They talked like old friends, but the tension and unrequited love were there, palpable in the air. "Are you happy, Marina?" he asked directly. She couldn't lie. "No, Gabriel. I'm not. And I don't know if I ever will be." "It's still not too late," he said softly. "It's never too late to choose happiness." This conversation was the catalyst Marina needed. She spent weeks reflecting on her life, on the years she had lost, on the person she had become. One night, she finally had the conversation she should have had years before. "Fernando, I need to tell you something," she said, sitting at the kitchen table where they had shared meals for 5 years. She told him everything, about Gabriel, about how she felt on their wedding day, about the years of pretending. Fernando listened in silence, and when she finished, he said something that surprised her. "Marina, I always knew. Not the details, but I knew you didn't love me the same way I love you." The divorce wasn't easy. There were family judgments, malicious comments in the small town, moments of loneliness and regret. But for the first time in years, Marina was being true to herself. She requested a transfer to a school in another city, started a new life. She didn't immediately go back to Gabriel. She first needed to learn to be happy alone, to truly know herself. 2 years after the divorce, at a photography exhibition in her new city, she bumped into Gabriel again. This time, she was free to choose her own destiny. Today, 10 years after that September that changed my life, I understand that the saddest day of my life was indeed my wedding, Marina reflects. Not because marriage is a bad thing, but because that day I chose to deny my truth, my feelings, my essence. I learned that it's never too late to start over, to choose genuine happiness instead of others' approval. I learned that true love cannot be forced or built, It simply exists or it doesn't. And I learned that the courage to be true to yourself is the most precious gift we can give ourselves. What do you think about Marina's story? Have you ever been in situations where you had to choose between pleasing others and being true to yourselves? Share your experiences in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any emotional stories like this one. See you next time.